ये गंभीर विषय है।
नहीं 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 नहीं, नरेंद्र मोदी जी पूरा हिंदू समाज नहीं है, बीजेपी पूरा हिंदू समाज नहीं है, आरएसएस पूरा हिंदू समाज नहीं है।
After a decade, India has a robust opposition in parliament. What can reduce numbers for the BJP and a surge for the opposition really achieve in parliament? Well, plenty. From providing a counterbalance to majoritarianism to ensuring rigorous scrutiny of bills and a closer oversight of governance.
लोकतंत्र के लिए बहुत आवश्यक है कि एक बहुत ही मजबूत विपक्ष हो।
This week on Let Me Explain, I'll delve into what a stronger opposition can achieve, why it's good for democracy, and how it can ultimately benefit all of us, that's the citizens of India. Let me explain. Finance Bill 2023, Criminal Code Bill, the Tribunals Reforms Bill, Juvenile Justice Bill, the Essential Defence Services Bill. Can you guess what's common between all of these bills? They were all passed in Parliament without any, let me repeat, without any debate. Most things in parliamentary functions depend on the strength, that is the numbers. With a weak opposition, many crucial bills were passed between 2014 and 2024 without any debate, and sometimes after debate for just a few minutes. Of course, the last parliament also saw many opposition leaders being suspended, one reason why they were not present for crucial debates. The time allotted to each political party to speak depends on the number of MPs the party has in that house. So if BJP has 44% of the members, as they do now, they get 44% of the time. In the previous Lok Sabha, BJP had 55.8% of the MPs, so automatically the time allotted to them was 55.8%. Now, with a bigger number in the opposition, one can expect more members of opposition parties making speeches. We already saw a sample of this in the very first session of the parliament. The perpetual opposition is us, the independent media. We've been keeping a close watch on the government irrespective of who's in power and who's in the opposition. We can do this because we take no funds or advertisements from any government, and since last month, all our platforms have been ad-free. We only depend on you to have our back. So don't disappoint us, don't let us down. Do become a TNM subscriber right away. Either scan this QR code or click on the link in the description below. Now let's look at the parliamentary standing committees. While the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha are where bills are officially tabled, debated and passed, the real deep dive happens in these committees. Departmentally related standing committees, or DRSCs, act as Parliament's watchdogs. In Parliament, MPs often stick to party lines and vote as directed. But behind the scenes, in the relative privacy of committees, MPs get to consult experts and really dig into the details of the bills. There are 24 of these committees, and they don't just look at bills. They also keep an eye on how ministries and bureaucrats are performing. They can summon officials and experts to get the full picture. Traditionally, these committees have been bipartisan, and their recommendations, while not mandatory, have been taken seriously. But things have changed quite a lot since 2014. The committees were made less influential than they used to be. The membership of these committees depend on the number of MPs a party has. So now, with more opposition MPs, there can be more representation in the standing committees. There's one more thing. More opposition leaders will now head committees. This is because the proportion of the chairmanship of these committees also depends on the strength of each party. This decision is eventually taken by the Speaker, but when the numbers are more, it compels the Speaker to appoint more chairpersons from the opposition ranks. Why is a chairperson of a parliamentary standing committee important? Chairpersons set committee agendas, represent the committee in talks with officials, make priority decisions, and interact with stakeholders. Their leadership determines the committee's effectiveness and whether it scrutinizes or supports the government. Let me give you an example of what a chairman of a parliamentary committee can actually achieve. In the previous term, parliamentary committees chaired by opposition MPs were giving the government a hard time by asking tough questions. To handle this, the ruling party found a clever way to manage the situation by controlling who gets to chair these committees. Opposition MPs have been replaced as chairs even mid-term. Congress MP Shashi Tharoor has experienced this tactic twice. He chaired the External Affairs Committee during Modi's first term, that's between 2014 and 2019. The committee raised several uncomfortable questions about foreign policy, particularly regarding the Doklam issue and the standoff between Indian and Chinese troops in 2017. The committee questioned whether India had ceded territory to China and how many Chinese soldiers were present in formerly Indian-occupied areas. Tharoor's probing led to his removal and replacement by a BJP MP. Since the formation of the External Affairs Committee, this was the first time the chair was not a member of the opposition. Tharoor later became the chair of the IT Committee, where the committee took on issues like Pegasus, data privacy and internet shutdowns, basically topics that didn't sit well with the BJP. The committee summoned officials and witnesses, and eventually Tharoor was replaced as the chair. In 2022, Jadhav, an MP from Shiv Sena Shinde faction, an ally of the BJP, took over. So now you see how a chairperson can effect change in a committee. With a stronger voice in Lok Sabha, the opposition can now demand more bills be sent for scrutiny to the parliamentary standing committees. There was a steep reduction of the bills that were sent to these committees. Look at the numbers. From 2004 to 2009, that's during the 14th Lok Sabha, 60% of the bills were sent to standing committees. Then between 2009 and 14, in the 15th Lok Sabha, that number jumped to 71%. But under the National Democratic Alliance, that's the NDA, in the following term, the percentage of bills referred to the committees dropped drastically to just 26%. This downward trend continued in the 17th Lok Sabha, with just 10% of the bills being sent for scrutiny by parliamentary committees. What does this mean? Bills that affect our lives, like the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita, and Bharatiya Saksha Adhinayam get more scrutiny. To make sure that the problematic parts of the law gets called out, debated, and maybe even repealed in Parliament. But this did not happen. On August 11, 2023, Union Home Minister Amit Shah introduced 3 major bills to revamp India's criminal justice system, replacing the IPC, CRPC, and the Evidence Act. The Parliamentary Standing Committee on Home Affairs was given the draft bill just 5 days before adoption, after Congress's P. Chidambaram and TMC's Derek O'Brien raised objections. The deadline was extended, but the time was not enough. Imagine MPs had to go through 3 bills in a matter of just a few days and did not even have time for consultations with legal experts. A collective 70-page dissent was submitted, but the bill was adopted on November 6 nonetheless. The 18th Parliament will surely be different from the 17th. In case of contentious bills, the opposition can pull their weight to either block or force the government to bring in tweaks in form of amendments. In the past, in case of legislations like the CAA, the BJP alone had enough numbers in Lok Sabha to not pay heed to any objection or even listen to the more nuanced arguments. But now, there's no ideological cohesiveness even within the ruling alliance, that is the NDA. The TDP has been very critical of the CAA, and the JDU had raised objections about the exclusion of certain groups and the potential polarizing effect of the legislation. Another example, in the run-up to the elections, Chandrababu Naidu had promised to preserve the 4% reservation to Muslims under the OBC category in Andhra Pradesh and said that no welfare scheme for Muslims will be scrapped. This is in direct contradiction to the BJP stand on the issue, where they went after the Congress on Muslim reservation. The JDU has been in favor of a caste census, and under Nitish Kumar, the Bihar government became the first to hold and publish the caste census report. The BJP has been reluctant to hold a caste census in the country. Now, for any contentious bill, the BJP will need the support of their allies. The TDP or the JDU will have to be convinced to stand in favor of the bill and make sure that all their MPs vote. More regional parties like DMK, TMC, SP, and even TDP have a significant strength in parliament, which in turn could translate into better representation of states in parliament. This could prove to be a shot in the arm for federalism. In his last 10 years as Prime Minister, Narendra Modi had a buffer in parliament. Friendly parties who were not part of NDA but would still help him in parliament, like the YSRCP from Andhra Pradesh, BRS from Telangana, and BJD from Odisha. There were over 8 to 9 bills where the YSRCP MPs voted in favor of the government, like the abrogation of Article 370, which gave special status to Jammu and Kashmir. The same goes for BRS and the BJD. This time, the BRS has not won a single seat in Lok Sabha. And after K. Kavita's imprisonment in the Delhi liquor scam, will BRS's 4 Rajya Sabha MPs help the BJP? YSRCP has 4 Lok Sabha MPs and 11 in the Rajya Sabha. But Jagan's help will depend on how cozy his rival Chandrababu Naidu remains with the BJP. As for BJD, Naveen Patnaik has said they'll no longer be amiable to help the BJP in parliament. So the BJD's 9 members in Rajya Sabha are unlikely to help the NDA. The BJP has less room for negotiation outside of their own alliance. This means on BJP's ideological projects like the UCC, the opposition can push back. At best, the opposition can demand a progressive UCC, which includes easy adoption laws, inclusive marriage laws, and a more gender-just approach to succession and inheritance. My colleague Anna Isaac had an entire episode on what such reforms would look like, which you can watch by clicking on the link in the description below. The biggest impediment the BJP will face from all these parties and its own ally, the TDP, will be on delimitation. Most regional parties, especially from the south, do not approve of delimitation as it stands today. It's going to be interesting times ahead. After a decade of single-party dominance, Indian politics is back to coalition. That's it from me for this episode. Make sure you join me for one more episode of Let Me Explain next week. Meanwhile, do write to me with your comments, suggestions, story ideas at pooja@thenewsminute.com. Thank you for joining me.